Hello, and welcome to another episode of the More Than Therapy podcast. Today's special guest is Marlana Peterson, who's visited with us once or twice or three times in the past. And today she's going to talk to us about seasonal affect disorder. Apparently she's an expert in it, though she didn't provide us with a book on this occasion for us to explore her expertise. But no, it's not necessary. Her work stems from trauma to addiction to stressors in everyday life. And the name of her practice is, tell them real quick.
True Transformations, Recovery, and Wellness.
And she works to make a true transformation in your life. So look her up at
TrueTransformations.com.
All right, TrueTransformations.com. That just rolls off the lips. That's a beautiful name.
Thank you.
What inspired you to create the business True Transformations?
Well, after practicing for several years and noticing the change in my clients through our work together, it really struck me as a name that felt like it represented the type of practice that I practice, that I embody in the work that I do with my clients. It's a true transformation.
You came to the game, what some would say, as a second chapter in your career. What inspired you to be in the helping space in this way as a licensed professional?
I think many folks that come into the helping professional and therapeutic lens have some personal experience with it. I think that the biggest experience I have is witnessing the pain of others, bearing witness, and seeing myself as an encourager or guide during those sort of valley moments. And that's something that I feel very charged about. It's something that it just, as I encourage others, it encourages myself.
If there was one incident that was really the fire underneath your bun, what would it have been to make you make this transformation for yourself?
I think probably being an advocate for others. I think as an older sister in my personal life, I've always had to be a voice, and I found myself in a situation in which I felt very passionately to advocate for someone, and I didn't feel like I was being heard. Because I didn't have the credentials, even though I had the knowledge of being in mental health profession, in an administrative capacity for close to 20 years. And so getting licensed, the licensure journey was here probably only the last 7. And it was born out of my desire to advocate.
Well, it's that time of year again where it's getting cooler and time goes back an hour this Sunday right here. We go back to daylight savings time. I'll be working, so that means I work an extra hour. What was I thinking? Scheduling myself to work tonight. I said it to say this. This is the time of year where it gets colder, quicker, darker, quicker. There's fewer hours of daylight. And most people don't even get that many hours of daylight anyway. They work 9 to 5, and then boom, and then maybe they can get some daylight if they choose to do so, an hour in traffic, and cooked and all those things. But now they even have even less. Some people will start experiencing darkness as soon as they get off. Let's say you get off at 5:30 here in Durham. I think our sun set is approximately 5:45 p.m. after this change. The president talked about he might be getting rid of daylight savings time, so that might be something that we can look forward to, if nothing else.
Yeah, that'd be an adjustment and change in itself, since many of us only know the daylight savings.
So when you think about seasonal affective disorder, what impact does it have on the clients that you've served, or even for yourself?
I think the biggest thing is change to one's schedule.
Yeah.
In the spring is a great time. We've been working with clients, whether it's new clients at that time or clients that you have, because it's burst of new, and You know, people want to start new habits to get out, it gets warm. And so you have an opportunity to build what I like to call mooring line behaviors, this baseline of engagement, right? Practices, rituals that are grounding to the individual that make them feel their best self.
Right.
And so after several months of practicing that, we establish a baseline. And as you get closer to the fall months and it gets a little colder, you'll notice some of your clients will say things like they haven't walked, the weather has been, rainy or cold, or it got dark. And so some things like our movement practices or even social engagements begin to change. So some of those changes, subtle as they may be, start to impact individuals' mood.
And what does that look like? These mood changes, these mood shifts that we might see in people if they're experiencing seasonal affective disorder, the acronym SAD. I guess that's it, right? They'll be sad,
low energy, low motivation, changes in appetite, changes in sleep, changes in socialization, as I mentioned, changes in movement practices, increased sensitivity or irritability. And those are just a few changes. Then they might see that those changes impact family engagement, romantic engagement, work engagement.
In your work, people experiencing seasonal affective disorder, how damaging can it be? What's some of the saddest things you've seen with people experiencing SAD?
Well, weeks of feelings, depression, right, can increase suicidal ideation. We hope to catch it. Someone who's already working with an individual should catch it before it would escalate any further. I haven't had any experiences where it's escalated further, but certainly, thoughts about not being here. Why am I here? This isn't working the way that I thought it would, and things of that nature.
Okay. Let's say you were sad. What kind of tools would be useful in helping you overcome being sad?
I think the biggest thing is, and this is specifically to folks that are younger age that could be in jeopardy of this, females, individuals living in areas where they have long, dark winters, folks that have a history of depression, family history of depression, and also medical conditions such as obesity. I think the mooring line practice is the best indicator, right? It's very difficult for us to kind of know if we're, in the language, adrift or sort of moving in a pathway that is not where we are, the direction we don't want to be going in, if we don't have any routine. As adults, a lot of time our routine is just stemmed with maybe just work. Some others include other social pro-social activities, like disc golf or tennis or things of that nature, yoga practices, exercise classes, spiritual engagement. So some folks have religious practices either on Saturday or Sunday. These anchor us to a schedule. But outside of that, as individuals, we could probably benefit from individual routines as well. Things like nighttime hygiene routine practices, right? That we get in bed at a certain time, that we have practices that enhance our sleep, like dark rooms, cool rooms, comfortable bed, maybe having aromatherapy through shower or bath prior to, getting electronics out of the room, putting on do not disturb, things of that nature. Morning routines, getting up at a certain time, having breakfast, maybe time for meditation, checking a schedule, looking at a to-do list. These things sort of keep a framework on our weeks. And then we want to add some grounding techniques to that, right? Some check-ins for ourselves. Meditation, again, I mentioned, journaling, stretching practice to the idea of movement, where we're in touch with not just our logical selves, but also our emotional selves.
Okay. All right. That sounds like a lot of good strategies and a lot of tools to combat Seasonal affective disorder, better known as SAD.
You also have to consider the holidays and what those family interactions will, may or may not produce. Conflict, disappointment, right? Things planned that don't work out, things that folks get off their chest that they might not be prepared for, might not be good time to discuss.
Right.
Some folks don't have anyone to gather with at all. Those also influence the seasonal affective disorder. Memories about past experiences. All of these things contribute to an individual's wellness emotionally.
Let's say somebody knows that they're about to have SAD, or that the winter's coming. Like, oh no, I'm going to be sad. What can they do beforehand before it even gets to that point? How can they make preparations to avoid having seasonal affective disorder, if there is such a thing?
Well, I think the biggest indicator, the way that I practice, is lifestyle changes. Again, directing us to those routine behaviors, inclusive of exercising regularly, eating healthy, drinking water, movement practice, getting enough rest. All of those practices reduce symptoms of seasonal affective disorder. Obviously, improving your engagement with others and connection in any way that might be healthy.
Right.
And giving to others. This season is also a time of giving. One of the strongest tools in the didactical behavioral practice, therapy practice, is to volunteer or show up for someone else. I can't impress upon individuals how showing up for other people, that investment has such a return to the individual. So if you find yourself alone, or if you find yourself with extra time during the holidays, show up at a food bank, show up to serve a meal, or volunteer in some way to benefit someone else.
Okay. All right. Grounding is a technique you might utilize, right? Can you maybe do an exercise of grounding, that one of your go-tos that help people, maybe exemplify it for them, so they can always play this episode of the More Than Therapy podcast and can follow along for a Black clinician like yourself who's light-skinned?
Grounding technique, I think the breathing is the best one. There's many that you can go to, but I think the breathing technique is an easy go-to. A lot of my clients default back to. It's one of the first skills that they gain. And simply in practices in the session, just make themselves comfortable in the chair.
Yeah.
And put your feet flat on the ground.
Okay.
Or in a comfortable posture for your back. And it's known as a box breathing, and that is because we're going to be doing it in intervals of 4. So you will breathe in for a count of 4. You will hold for a count of 4. You will exhale for a count of 4, and then hold that for 4. And you'll just keep count in your mind. We can begin. As I open my eyes, I like to point out the holding for 4 is really instrumental, because it allows you on that second breath to really fully inflate your lungs and give you an opportunity to exhale fully. And a lot of us do not deep breathe routinely. We do pretty short breaths.
Shallow breathing.
Shallow breathing, yes. And so when you sort of take a moment to do that comprehensive deep breathing, it does relieve you. Where did you notice relief at specifically?
Where did I notice it? Oh, that was a short little exercise, so it didn't really do much for me. But if you did it for at least 3 to 5 minutes, which is recommended, I'm sure I would feel a lot release, probably in my shoulders areas, my upper neck, my lower neck, my shoulder areas. That's usually where my stress resonates.
Yeah.
And that's usually where it gets off of me when I do, box breathing or progressive muscle relaxation techniques. One of my favorite go-tos for grounding, especially when I'm experiencing some anxiety, It's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's a favorite, yes.
Yeah.
What, do you mind demonstrating your version of that?
Yeah, I do. Mind.
Oh, okay.
No, like we can just do an example right now. Name 5 things that you can see right now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You gotta say it out loud. That's my version. Because I think when we say it, we claim it. And it really focuses us on it versus just thinking it. So go ahead and do that.
Okay. Blue wall, brick wall, whiteboard, white table, black chair.
Mm-hmm. 4 things you can hear.
Sounds from a phone, sounds from a chair, background noise, closer voices.
3 things you can feel.
The arms of this chair, the coldness of this table, the heaviness of this phone.
2 things you can smell.
The cool crispness of this office and the sweetness of my beverage.
1 thing you can taste.
Yes, still tasting strawberry peach smoothie.
Sure, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding people's wellness and people's focus on, getting better and recovering from seasonal affective disorder, what are some tools you can leave them with before we transition to the next stage of this episode?
I think the biggest tool would be self-assessment. If it feels like you need additional supports to manage heavy feelings, you've been having ruminating thoughts, low mood, they're feeling lethargic, not really interacting, I think you should seek professional help and get support from someone licensed that can give you tools and strategies that are uniquely tailored to you and your individual needs.
Any other type of resources you can recommend? Everybody's not hip to therapy, and we like to recommend other tools of wellness for those that have an aversion to therapy.
Yeah.
Any apps or any other tools you can think of?
I don't have any apps that I would recommend, but we've included 2 strategies here, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, also box breathing. Those are some very baseline tools. You can do other grounding techniques such as your feet on grass, touching a tree. I like to do a meditation with a warm beverage where you use your 5 senses and lean into what that experience is for you. So some baseline strategies such as those could be beneficial.
Okay. Now we're going to play a game. It's called Heads Up. You ready? You excited?
Yes.
All right. Have you ever played before?
I have not.
Okay. Have you ever heard of it?
I think I have.
Okay. So it's a game. It's like I place the phone, or the person places the phone right here. And I'm gonna face it that way so the audience can see it. So you can probably sit here.
Which way should I be looking?
And you're gonna be sitting here. And you're gonna be facing me.
Okay.
All right. And you can't talk. It's gonna be a key word. And you can't talk. You have to act it out, right? And then I have to guess it.
Okay.
No, you have to guess it because I'm gonna have the thing in my head, and then vice versa. And then whoever gets the most is the winner.
Okay. We'll try this one time.
Now, we'll try it 3 times. I just want you to get a feel for it. Maybe it's not your thing because you're like kind of stiff. Maybe you don't like playing games.
Okay.
All right, you ready? You excited?
Ready. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna do it. All right. Ready?
Okay.
Yeah, towards me.
Oh, okay.
This way. Towards me.
Oh, towards you. Okay, they can see. All right.
All right. Typing, writing a poem, writing a letter, writing some bills, journaling, signature, cursive writing. Oh my fucking goodness. Oh, this doesn't make any sense. I can see the thing right there.
Doodling. And so we can see laughter is a great intervention to avoid seasonal affect disorder.
Humor is a good way to
Mhm.
alleviate a lot of problems, a lot of issues. When
Yeah.
my mom was going through treatment, that was the one thing that kept her up, kept her mood up. And now, she's doing better. And that probably was the easiest way to get her back on track, was to laugh instead of just staying in the pain, ruminating in the pain, like people ruminate when they're having seasonal affective disorder.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's so cold. Oh, I can't go anywhere. Oh, it's so dark. There's nowhere to go. Blah blah blah. Because a lot of things shut down during the winters too.
Mhm.
That's something else we got taken. The things that they might have used to do, didn't do. They might have used to go to the park or go to the dog park or go to festivals and all those things. And those things slow down.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's still things to do. Christmas lighting and going around and looking at people's houses with the lights and. They had that Oriental thing in Cary and Raleigh. Those are nice light things.
Mhm.
But still, not even nearly half as many fun things to do or adventurous things to do that's outside. I wonder if children experience seasonal affective disorder. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I would imagine that when they have more days off from school and they're not structured, that could probably create some disappointment, frustration for them. Especially if the weather's inclement, they're limited to what engagement they can do. Parents are still working, busy, or have other tasks that they may be doing for the holiday prep.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that children probably can experience some low mood, with also being out of routine. That's why I think that some level of routine for all individuals can be positive.
The impact of scheduling. I know
Mhm.
scheduling is very important in recovery.
Yes.
I see a lot of kids, they probably won't be affected by it because of their use of smart devices like iPads and smartphones. What is your thoughts on that?
I think that can get into dangerous territory, much like in COVID times, right? We had the extreme example of this.
Mm.
But overindulging in any one thing can tend to be a problem. I like to balance the children's electronics with old-fashioned engagement, like card games and board games and sidewalk chalk and bike riding and jump rope. Because I think all of those things really enhance a child's development
Right.
and social interaction, movement, all of the things.
Well, let's say a child has an 8-year-old, an 11-year-old has, overindulgence of use of smart devices and all those things. How would you work with a parent, let's say, in order to help them get their child away from that type of continuous interaction that seems to be an overwhelming factor in that child's life?
And this is an important question. And it's one of the challenges in working with children. But I think the first thing would be is to highlight for the parent what their values are,
Mm-hmm.
and allow them some maybe private homework if they're up to it to determine how they are operationalizing their values. I think most parents will say their children is a high value to them, but it is not just putting food on the table or getting them off to school. And in these times, it really requires a lot of, engagement, going through the book bag, knowing who the teacher is,
Right.
taking time out to know who the child is, what are
Right.
their gifts and talents, do they like to draw, do they like to paint, and allowing yourself some of that freedom to meet them where they are and enjoy that activity with them,
Mhm.
which can be healthy for the adult as well. Many adults lose their access to hobbies, and if you ask them, what do you like to do in your downtime that's just for you, they're limited in their response.
Mm.
So we have to start with things like adult coloring books, or remind them that they used to like Legos or painting or crochet or
Right.
knitting.
That's a good point.
Mhm.
I tell people all the time that sometimes you have to feed your inner child in order to address your wellness.
Mm-hmm.
I used to like playing
Most times.
basketball and kickball and all the things. And as an adult, I might not necessarily do as often as I would want to, or at all since the pandemic. And I think re-engaging those things reignite the fire inside of you, the motivation, the inspiration. But back to the kids. Let's say, a child is just having temper tantrums and they just go all irate that if they can't have their tablet, then they don't know what to do with themselves. You know what I'm saying?
It's a very hard habit to break.
Yeah.
And I think that the parent, it needs to approach it in a lot of different methods.
Yeah.
I think that probably changing the child's environment will be helpful. I think for any individual, when we're doing a new habit, changing the environment can be helpful. So let's say that we would come in from school or work and go home and go on electronics. Parent might need to incorporate when the evening routine, stopping at the library for an hour and involving yourself in a different environment to break that habit.
Okay. Values. I see that the values theme is something that comes up often in your work. Do you think that a lot of despair, tell me about your opinion of that, how often a lot of despair, a lot of distress, some of the diagnoses that you deal with come out of maybe not appropriately adhering to one's values?
I think values is the foundation of both the work that needs to get done and probably the catalyst for when things do feel like they're a little bit out of order. Because values is the foundation, right, of our intentions, our actions, our communication, even if they reside in a subconscious way in us, right? Sometimes part of the work, the clinical journey, is realigning what you say is important with your actions. And so if we're saying that, being healthy is important, or role model healthy behaviors to our children is important, that's a value. Show me how that's a value.
That's right. Is there any values activities that you do, or how do you address values with your clients? Because I think a lot of clients don't even know what a value is. They'll say what they value. Oh, I value my TV, my car, and that's like, no, that's not what I'm talking about. How do you address value work in your work?
I definitely, it's a process, right? At first, I allow the client to unburden themselves with what brought them into the session.
Right.
And then, sort of inform them what the work will look like, right? We're looking for an internal reconciliation between the person, how they see themselves, who they believe they are, and who other people have informed them that they are, to a degree, right? And so in that journey, we have to flesh out, okay, you say that, your health is important, but I see that you are non-compliant in your recommendations for diabetes management, or, you don't have a good nighttime routine, but you have a really important job that you need to be well rested for. Variety of ways in which we say something is important, but we're not operationalize it. Once you bring those discrepancies up for awareness, then we become curious about why we're not doing it. So first we maybe weren't conscious of it. Now we're conscious of it. Why aren't we now doing it? And that probably lays the foundation for, maladaptive thoughts and feelings and other catalysts for us not operating within our values.
And scheduling, right, can probably be useful in having them re-engage in their values. Because like you said, if they're not adhering to it, then that's probably causing them a lot of despair. Let's say you had a male client and he said, my values are family and honesty and this and that, but he works 16 hours a day. So how much time is he really spending with his family? But he defines, financial stability by what he provides for them. If their house is paid for, they got all the things they need, electricity, water, food, etc. But that's how he defines his value. But then he knows that's not really how he should be defining it, because no adequate time is being spent. He's not able to spread his knowledge or his experience or, anything like that with his children. And that can cause a lot of despair. And then when the empty house, when the kids go off to college or whatever, and then when he retires, that emptiness he has in himself, or what we might see in a lot of men, what they call it the midlife crisis, that might be a consequence of the type of lifestyle I was just leading to. That, what do I do now? You know what I'm saying? This money's not going to the kids. My wife has left me. Oh, I guess I'll buy a Corvette and wild out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, sometimes they purchase a Corvette before the children leave or the wife. But I digress. I think the important thing is every work, whether it's couples related or individual. It starts from the individual, right? So you're given a scenario where this individual is both a husband and a father, right? And it would be internal work, right? I would hope that he would see someone in the midst of raising the children and working a 16-hour job and not after, because it would give him an opportunity to create the balance that he may want. I think a lot of people without clarity and awareness can show up and offer things that someone else isn't even offering because they think that is the thing that they need to be provided. So I think it's to your point, communication is key. I think that there's a lot of assumptions made around communication that because we both speak English, we understand each other, and that's not true. To your point about values, right? You say, I want to know what's important to you, and then they list out honesty, loyalty, right? And it's like, no, that's great, and I appreciate that. And also I'm looking for what are the things that matter to you most, right? And so kids, work, career, health, and then we get those other answers.
Right.
So again, it's important not to make assumptions. I think that, clear, assertive communication is imperative, and that person should be getting feedback from those around them, right? Hey, we missed you at the game. Hey, we missed you at the concert. Really missed you at this, that, and the third. That should be communicated to him,
right?
So that he can gain some awareness around 16-hour days and how that might not be working for him or his family.
Okay. Well, would you like to leave the listening and watching office with any final words?
No, I think we did a pretty comprehensive job of outlining both some skills and some strategies and information in general about how to avoid what we'll all be soon embracing is that shift in the weather and those earlier evenings. So hopefully you guys can lean into that, recognize what's working, what's not working, and make appropriate changes.
All right. What's this thing doing? All right, and that if you haven't already, please subscribe to the More Than Therapy podcast wherever you listen to or watch your favorite podcast. That's the More Than Therapy podcast, and there's 2 of them on Spotify as well as Apple. Subscribe to both. The other More Than Therapy podcast is out of Virginia. This one's out of Durham. Until the next time, be well and be great.